many Manitobans, spending time on or by the water is a way of beating the summer heat, whether that's at the beach, on the lake, or by the pool. With summer season nearly here, Dr. Chris Love, Water Smart Coordinator with the Lifesaving Society Manitoba, has joined me in studio to talk water safety. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity.
Well, welcome to Classic 107, Dr. Chris Love. With the long weekend approaching, it seems like the perfect time to have you in the studio to talk just a little bit about water safety. I'd like to begin by asking you about the Lifesaving Society Manitoba and your role within the organization.
Yeah, so Lifesaving Society Manitoba, we're part of a national organization, Lifesaving Society Canada. We exist, our sole mission is to prevent drownings and water-related injuries. We've been doing that across the country since 1896 and here in Manitoba since 1911. My role as the Water Smart Coordinator is doing our public education programming. So getting the word out to make sure people stay safe, in advance of going out on their trips in, on, or around the water. We would much prefer to have the prevention aspect as opposed to having to deal with a tragic, circumstance with a fatality or something like that.
So in terms of raising that awareness, I understand that we're coming up on National Fishing Week here in Canada.
Yeah, so National Fishing Week is June the 29th to July the 7th. It's usually the first week of July every year. And as part of that, in partnership with the Canadian Safe Boating Council, Lifesaving Society across the country, we're working on what's called the Hooked on Life Jackets campaign. We know a ton of people are going to be out on the water this long weekend. They're going to be fishing. They're going to be boating. And the big safety message we want to get across is make sure you are wearing your life jacket. We know, unfortunately, from years of research that in a large percentage of drowning fatalities where life jackets should be worn, so boating incidents, fishing from shore, people just are not wearing the life jackets. And we'll never know, unfortunately, if it would have made a difference between a fatality or not a fatality, but based upon how life jackets work, we're pretty sure that it would help in a large percentage of those cases. And so it's an easy step. And it's something, you just have to take a few minutes of thought before you're going out on your trip. Like, okay, do I have my life jacket? Does it still fit? Is it in good repair? Check, check, check. Okay, I'm going to put it on now before I get in the boat, before I set foot on the shore to start my fishing trip.
So why do you think so many people choose not to wear life jackets then?
Yeah, well, one of the lines that we do hear very often is, well, I'm a good swimmer, so I don't need a life jacket. And unfortunately, again, we know from drowning incident research, very often, they may have it in the boat, but they're not wearing it. And so boat accident happens, life jacket goes one direction, person goes the other. You have no opportunity to put it on when you need it. People have also complained, well, they're uncomfortable, they chafe, they don't give me freedom of movement. And certainly once upon a time, you really only had one style that you could wear. And yeah, they were big and bulky. But technology has evolved as we've got new fabrics and everything. There are a wide variety of styles out there on the market. There are specific vests that you can wear for fishing and hunting that give you full freedom of movement and actually come with pockets and loops and zips. So you can have your lures, your weights, your hooks, all on the vest. So you almost don't need a tackle box with you. But at the same time, it's really handy for your fishing trip, but it's also going to make you float if you end up in the water. So it's great. There's also inflatable PFDs have really, really taken off. They're small, they're lightweight. It's like you're not even wearing them. I probably should have brought one in had I known you guys had a webcam here. And I do lots of presentations, and I can wear an inflatable PFD on me in front of a crowd for an hour, and it's I don't even, feel that I'm wearing it.
It sounds like life jackets have become far more functional. I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, and it was the one big puffy life jacket, and you'd kind of float your way while you were sitting in the lake or whatever it happened to be. But the styles have really changed, and they sound very functional. You mentioned PFD, a personal flotation device. What's the difference between a life jacket and a PFD?
Yeah, so basically both types of devices. So what's technically called a small vessel regulation life jacket or a PFD, personal flotation device. They're both registered and they're both certified by Transport Canada or Canada Coast Guard. So when you're going out to look on the label, make sure it's Canada Coast Guard approved or Transport Canada approved. The big difference between them is the small vessel regulation life jacket, they do tend to be bulkier because the way they are designed is to always make you float face up. So if you end up in the water, if you're wearing a true regulation life jacket, it's going to flip you over so you end up on your back, face out of the water so you can breathe. Personal flotation device, again, it's a certified flotation device. It makes you float, but you can float in any body position. So you could be face down, on your back, on your side. Depending on your activities, you can choose one or the other. If I'm just going boating, I personally prefer wearing a life jacket so that I know that if there's a high-speed crash or something, I get hit in the head, I'm going to float face up. But if I'm going out and doing a active activity like fishing, I'll wear a PFD, and then I have to also realize myself, okay, I do need to be a little bit safe here. I can't do certain stupid things where I might slip and hit my head, because if I get knocked out and I end up face down with the PFD, I'm still going to be floating face down. Now, having said that, I'm still floating, which is really, really important, because I should be out with a friend, someone with me. So if I get into trouble, they can help. So I end up floating face down. Well, hey, they can flip me over at that point, and we're still safe.
So we've been talking a little bit about awareness, about prevention. I also just quickly would like to ask you about the newly released 2019 Manitoba Drowning Report. Generally speaking, what does this document tell us, and how's it compiled?
Yeah, so basically what we do as an organization is every year we do drowning research across the country with the chief medical examiners, coroner's offices in each province. And so we get to go in, we get to collate data, anonymous, but figure out, okay, how many people have died due to drowning? What were the circumstances? That gets compiled by some researchers we have in Ontario, and they go through it, they categorize everything, and then issue the report. And we use that to try to figure out, where do we need to focus our public education efforts? What are we seeing as the issues when it comes to fatalities, and sometimes, if we can get it, injuries around the water. And so, yeah, our 2019 report has just come out. Because of the way the coroner's data works, it's giving us our data for the last 5-year average that we have full data for, which is 2012 to 2016. And yeah, I mean, it's telling us no huge surprises, but a few things that we are noting and keeping an eye on. So natural bodies of water, rivers, lakes, ponds continue to be the largest area where people end up in trouble. But for the first time in about 4 or 5 years, we've seen bathtubs pop up as a statistically significant proportion, 5% of all drowning deaths in the province. So, I mean, that's something we may need to do some more education on. We're also seeing one of the things, the largest percentage group of the population here in the province that is now drowning is seniors 65 plus. And so, we sometimes call that group the older but not wiser adults group. Anecdotally, we can see in many cases they're doing activities that they may have been perfectly fine doing when they were younger, but now that they're older, they may not be as mobile or as agile or as strong. They may be, have medical conditions now, and so they're not able to power through emergencies when they hit that category. Or some cases, they might be set in their ways. They're not willing to wear the life jacket. Well, I didn't wear that when I was a kid. Why do I need it now?
Right. I was just looking at the Lifesaving Manitoba website, Lifesaving Society Manitoba website, and there's a great infographic that just breaks this information down. Yep. And we'll be sure to share that. The last thing I want to ask you is, you mentioned taking this data and using it proactively. So moving forward in the future, which direction do you see yourself going in terms of new programming and awareness raising? Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not foreseeing any new programming at this point, but that remains to be seen. I mean, we've only had the data for that drowning report for about a week, a little bit more than that as we prepped for this week's of activities. So, I mean, we're going to study it a bit more. Biggest thing I can say is we're going to continue getting the message out there. The lack of life jacket use, people being under the influence of alcohol or drugs when they're out on the water, those, unfortunately, in Manitoba have been long-standing issues when it comes to drowning fatalities. And so we need to continue to work on getting the word out through stations like yours in terms of making sure people understand, hey, we want you to be safe. We want every trip to be a round trip. I'm not saying don't party. I'm just saying save that party till after you're off the water so you can enjoy yourself, everybody can relax, and nobody's not going to go home to their family and friends at the end of the day.
Well, Dr. Chris Love, thanks so much for coming by Classic 107 to sharing that message and raising that awareness. We appreciate it so much.
Not a problem. We appreciate the ability to get out and talk to a different audience.
Oh, of course. Dr. Chris Love, Water Smart Coordinator with the Lifesaving Society Manitoba, with me here in the Classic 107 studio.